Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Before starting the video, please subscribe and keep watching for more details videos. Iga Swiatek would prefer more time to breathe amid brutal Cincinnati conditions. Iga Swiatek acknowledges she prefers to play early even in challenging conditions, but suggests that certain adjustments could be done, like giving players more time to breathe when the conditions are extremely hot and humid. As you probably know, one of the main storylines of this year's Cincinnati Open has been the brutal conditions. Over the past 12 days, multiple players needed medical assistance over feeling unwell. In the men's tournament, Arthur Rindenek even fainted on the court and retired his third-round match against Felix Auger-Aliassime. When it comes to Swiatek, she had to take to the court only 3 times en route to making the semifinal. She had a first-round bye, and Marta Kostyuk gave her a walkover in the third round. And so far, the Polish tennis star has managed the conditions well, not dropping a single set en route to setting up a Cincinnati semifinal showdown versus Elena Rybakina. Swiatek, maybe we should be given a bit more to breathe. But for sure, I mean, this kind of heat is like something that we just need to survive, and it's not like we can't. I think maybe giving like 5 more seconds to use the towel or have more time to breathe because it's a bit harder. That would be nice. But besides it, I think we can handle it. The World number 3 said, "It's nice that we have the ice towels on a bench and the AC kind of next to us. So this is for sure helpful. Without it, I think it would be much worse. But the only thing, maybe like 2 more seconds to use the towel. But you know, I'll always be the player to ask for that." Swiatek's Cincinnati semifinal match against Rybakina is scheduled for 1 p.m. local time. On Sunday, some rain is expected to fall in Cincinnati, so the conditions may be a bit fresher. The air was thick, almost too thick to be air. It pressed against the lungs like a stubborn hand, refusing to let go. The sun sat high and angry above Cincinnati, glaring down at the Linder Family Tennis Center like an unforgiving spotlight. The blue of the court shimmered with a heat mirage, and the balls bounced with an urgency that felt unnatural aggressive. Iga Swiatek stood at the baseline, her fingers curled tightly around the grip of her racket, sweat soaking through her visor and dripping from her jaw like slow clock ticks. Her breath came in short bursts, controlled, deliberate, but not enough. The crowd roared after her last shot, a looping forehand that clipped the baseline with surgical precision. A point won. But victory was never the goal here. Survival was. "I just need a moment," she thought. A moment to breathe. Chapter 1. The Unseen Battle. From the outside, tennis looks simple. Hit the ball, win the point. But inside the lines, it's a war of attrition. Not just against your opponent, but against time, pressure, heat, and the very limitations of the human body. For Swiatek, number 1 in the world, those battles were becoming more frequent, more punishing. Cincinnati was a special kind of brutal. The summer, there was like stepping into a furnace wrapped in a sauna. Humidity hovered at nearly 90%, and temperatures soared into the high 90s. Every step was a challenge, every breath an act of will. Reporters asked her that afternoon. Their recorders pointed like bayonets. "How do you feel out there?" She smiled politely, the kind of smile that hides more than it reveals. "It would be nice," she said, "to have just a little more time to breathe." It wasn't a complaint. It was a quiet truth, and maybe a call for change. Chapter 2. The Girl from Razin. Before the global fame, before the 4 Grand Slams, before the headlines about pressure and dominance and perfection, there was just Iga, a girl with a shy smile, a sharp mind, and a racket that seemed too big for her slight frame. In Razin, Poland, the summers were gentler, the air cooler, the expectations smaller. Back then, tennis was still a game, not yet a career. Her father, a former Olympic rower, taught her about discipline. Her coaches taught her precision. But no one teaches you how to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders when you're 23, and everyone expects you to never break. She grew strong in silence. She grew smart in solitude. But no one can train you for suffocation, not the metaphorical kind, nor the literal kind that Cincinnati seemed determined to impose. Chapter 3. Conversations with the court. That day, deep into a third set under the inferno sun, Swiatek found herself speaking. Not to her team, not to her opponent, but to the court itself. "Why do we push so hard?" she asked in her head. The court, silent and blistering, replied in its own way, with a bounce, with a crackle of heat rising off the surface. "You love the fight," it seemed to say. "You were made for this." But she didn't feel made for it, not in this moment. Her legs ached, her lungs burned, her heart was a trapped bird, fluttering too fast. What the audience didn't see was the discipline it took not just to play, but to remain calm in such chaos. Between points, she stared up at the sky. "Just a few more seconds," she whispered. "To breathe." Chapter 4. The Science of Survival. The physiologists will tell you that heat stress can reduce muscle efficiency by 20%, that heart rates rise faster in humidity, that judgment is impaired, that recovery between points is shortened, and that the risk of heat stroke becomes terrifyingly real. Swiatek knew this, not from textbooks, but from experience, from the Australian heat, from the French sun, from days like these in Cincinnati. She wore the science on her skin, bore it in her thighs, and channeled it through her racket. Yet she kept moving, because champions don't stop. But something inside her, something more honest than her press conference poise, was asking the sport, "Is this the best we can do?" Chapter 5. A Moment of Stillness. Late in the match, after a grueling 26-shot rally that had the crowd gasping as much as the players, the umpire called for time. A ball kid had slipped in the heat. Play paused. Swiatek dropped her racket, walked back to her bench, and closed her eyes. One breath in. Hold. One breath out. It wasn't much, but it was something. She thought of the younger players watching her, the ones who looked up to her the way she once looked up to Nadal, to Kleisters. She wondered what message she was sending. That excellence is born of endurance. That breaking down is weakness. That pushing through pain is the only way to prove worth. Maybe it was time to change the narrative. Maybe grace could exist in slowing down. Chapter 6. After the match. She won. Somehow. The last point blurred in her memory. A mix of adrenaline and instinct. In the locker room, her team congratulated her, but she didn't smile right away. Her fingers trembled slightly. Not from nerves, from dehydration. As she lay on the massage table, she finally spoke. "We need to talk about scheduling. About the heat. About rest time." They nodded. "You did amazing," her coach said. "I survived," she replied. "But that shouldn't be the standard." Chapter 7. Breathing Room. 2 days later, in an interview under a slightly cooler sky, Swiatek elaborated. "I understand tennis is a physical sport, but in conditions like these, we need more time between points. Maybe more shade on the court. Maybe rethink how matches are spaced. Just a little more time to breathe." It wasn't just about her. It was about everyone. Rising stars, veterans, ball kids, fans. About a sport that sometimes forgets that its athletes are human first. Some critics called her soft. Others called her brave. She didn't care about either. She cared about fairness, about health, about sustainability in a sport that runs on endurance. Epilogue: The long game. Weeks later, the tour moved on. New tournaments, new battles, new headlines. But the conversation had started. Swiatek, as always, kept playing. Elegant, relentless, tactical. But in each post-match moment, in every interaction with the press or governing bodies, she carried that quiet message. Let us play our best, but let us also breathe. And perhaps that, more than the trophies, would be her legacy. Not just as a champion of the game, but a champion of its heart.